One of my big pet peeves in the world of martial arts, the world of training in general, physical training in general, but this especially goes in martial arts, is where people have these ideas that X causes injury and then they come up with some reason, except that reason's not based on evidence. People often forget the fact that the plural of anecdote is not evidence. Now, we need to be careful here. It's not to say that anecdotes have no merit. Anecdotes and observations are part of evidence. They are just extremely low quality evidence because they are not controlled for. If you do not set out a control, then the fact is that you have not isolated variables and you may end up with simple misattribution of qualities from one thing to another because things were not tightly controlled. And of course, we run into problems also then if things are too tightly controlled, you remove them from their natural environment and they behave differently, of course, right? That is what makes research so difficult to do. Never mind the fact that it's extremely costly, and then there's ethics arguments that basically make some research impossible to do. But the fact is that if one person says, doing this technique makes my knees hurt, and the next person says, I have no problems with it. Both can be perfectly honest, and it also may have absolutely nothing to do with the technique. It may have everything to do with a very specific circumstance in that person's life. Some people say squats make my knees hurt, and other people say squats healed my knees completely. Can both be true? Yeah, both can be true, because no two knee joints are the same. No two people's technique of squatting is the same. And the fact that there are so many other variables that go into it really makes it difficult to sit there and say, yes, this, no, that. To the best of my knowledge, from what I've seen from people that I trust as fairly good experts in these things, you know, name dropping guys like the Stronger by Science guys and Eric Helms and basically everybody that works on mass. These guys are deep in the research and are either directly researchers or are adjacent to the research. And not only that, but they are meatheads. They're in the gym. And the fact is that they often can basically tell you that the evidence available does not support the claims that people are making about injuries. So we have to be extremely careful. And anytime somebody says this whatever causes injury, ask them for a citation, ask them for their evidence. If their evidence is, well, my teacher, does his horse dance this way and he has bad knees, that doesn't tell you anything. A lot of old guys have bad knees that have never done a horse dance. There's a lot of reasons you could have bad knees, and you can go on down the list of different kind of things. But the fact is that claims require evidence. And yes, dismissing claims oftentimes requires evidence as well. There's actually different logical fallacies there, but the appeal to the stone actually says that you can't dismiss something as absurd or even just untrue without backing it up, because that's akin to proof by assertion, which is another fallacy. Right? Asserting something is true, asserting something isn't true is not how you prove things. You do so with data. And again, it's not that the anecdotes don't matter, it's that the anecdotes are not controlled experiments, and therefore all variables have not been accounted for, and you could fall into simple misattribution. So please be careful with your words, because there's one more thing that we have to consider, and that is the nocebo effect. And I've talked about this before, but the nocebo effect is extremely powerful. The nocebo effect is the inverse of the placebo effect. It's a real thing. People have talked about it. You can look it up. And the fact is that the nocebo effect, much like the placebo effect, works by your brain catastrophizing things so that it interpretates every irregularity further up in the intensity scale, as this was uncomfortable becomes this is painful. This is painful becomes this is injury. And, that is not helpful, that is not useful, and it ends up actually warding people away from very, very useful and helpful techniques and training because they now have a belief system that reinforces the idea that they're going to get injured. It is very true that the more you believe that you're going to get injured, the more you are going to get injured. You know, it's, what is that Henry Ford quote, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. There's a lot of truth to that, because the way that we limit ourselves is very much based in our belief systems. And a lot of that comes down to interpreting signals from the environment. And if our belief system is making us interpret signals from the environment in a way that is not useful, not helpful, then we're going to actually be stunting our growth. So please be careful with your words. Please be careful. If you don't have data to back it up, if you do not have hard controlled data to back it up, then be honest about it, right? Just say, well, my knees hurt when I do it. That doesn't make it less real for you, but it also means that it probably doesn't necessarily apply to somebody else. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, give the dog a bone. You can follow us on our other social media accounts, and if you really like us, you can head over to Amazon and buy a shirt. You can also go over to Gumroad and purchase some of our instructional courses. All of the links will be provided and also on our website. If you happen to be in the Phoenix area, we would love to meet you. Come drop in for a class, even just to chat. And if you're looking for a new home, we would be happy to have you. So until next time, good journey.